How can Nicole, who starts her day with a healthy green smoothie, end it by eating Snickers bars and other chocolates? What was she thinking eating chocolate when she wants to lose weight? And why does she eat more chocolate when her husband is away? It doesn't make sense, right? Well, keep listening to find out the answers to these questions plus more. Hi there, it's Bronwyn. Welcome back to Before Dieting. If you're new here, this is the podcast where I go deep into the systems causes of weight regain. It's also the place where I get to contribute my bit to ending the blaming and shaming of women about their body weight. This week, we're going to be talking about sneak eating, eating for relief, and eating out of sight of others. So best leave your blame and shame at the door. The aim here is to bring these experiences into open, honest discussion. And in fact, part of that discussion should be about how extremely common this type of eating behaviour is. If you've been listening along, you'll remember that this series is about 10 women's food stories and how those stories have reduced to eating systems that now run on autopilot. In the previous 2 episodes, I told those stories in a straight descriptive way. Today, as I introduce you to Nicole, I want to spell things out more to show you how our food stories operate at different levels. The good old iceberg has become a bit of a cliche, but it's a good visual reference, especially where the largest percentage of food stories and icebergs sit beneath the surface. So when I take you through Nicole's story today, I want you to be thinking about her food story in 3 levels. The first level is her food plan. This is what she sets out to eat. This is where it's all nice and clean and it's a nice little list. She could actually write that down as a to-do list. Then we want to talk about the level about the eating reality. So we want to get down to what is it she is actually eating. And the third level is we want to actually look at what is the story and the structure that underpins that type of eating. One way to think about it is we want to look at what sits in the gap between what she intends to do and what ends up happening. So let me tell you a little bit about Nicole. She's a woman in her late 40s. She's got a pretty demanding job and a family to keep running. Her husband works in mining, which means he's away on site for 4 days and then home for 4 days. So a lot of the day-to-day family load falls onto Nicole. When I asked Nicole how she goes about losing weight, it turns out she loves lists, shortcuts, hacks. And the reason she loves them is she says they feel doable and she can fit them in and around everything else that she's doing. But amongst all the things that she can do, there are 2 repeating activities that she tends to focus on for weight loss. One is limiting carbs, and the other one is replacing as many foods as possible with low-calorie versions. And while she doesn't call it a diet, she's got 2 unspoken goals, which are to cut down calories and eat healthy. And what that translates into is that on Monday through Friday, every day's eating plan is the same. She starts with a green smoothie for breakfast. She takes a salad and a can of tuna for lunch and an apple so she can have something mid-afternoon. Her evening meal consists of meat and vegetables that she cooks for herself and her family. She says sometimes on the weekend, when she has more time, she'll make a dessert as a bit of a treat. So this plan sounds pretty straightforward, easy to prep, with consistent portion sizes. So how with this eating minimally 5 days a week can Nicole still not be losing weight? After we talk a bit further and more trust is built, Nicole is able to go a bit deeper into the full experience of what she eats. More details emerge and she tells me that after her breakfast smoothie, mid-morning she buys a skinny latte at the cafe across from her office. By lunchtime she's hungry, but she's able to hold steady with that tuna salad that she'd bought from home. By 3 p.m. she's got the growling stomach and the diet is breath. Even though she has a strong craving for the cinnamon scrolls from the cafe, she resists and just sticks with the apple. Most days she shops on the way home for the evening meal, and while she's waiting at the checkout, the strategically placed chocolate bars call to her. She buys one, limits herself to that, and drives home. After dinner is finished and the cleanup is over and everyone's gone to bed, she can finally relax. She says that when her husband is away, no one is watching. She doesn't have to explain herself or her eating to anyone. On these nights, she brings out a large box of sweet treats that she hides in the laundry cupboard. It's filled with chocolate bars, bags of lollies, packets of crisps. She eats one after another until an agitation that she feels in her stomach settles down enough for her to be able to go to sleep. Nicole is both embarrassed and confused about why she does this. It's a repeating pattern that she doesn't understand, but has now become a well-established daily routine. But it means that every morning she needs to reset and start her weight loss effort again by reducing calories and try to eat healthy. From an intake point of view, you don't need to be an expert in nutrition to see that her food intake is lopsided. It's what I call the hungering tsunami. It's building from the morning until it's sort of overwhelming her later in the day. Now let's look at that third level. We need to go one level to the deeper story that underpins that daily eating reality. The parts that complete the description of her food story and the part of her eating has become automated. So what we need to include in the description is the reason she's eating in this pattern. Because if we just left it at the level of what she's eating, we'd give her a more balanced eating plan. We wouldn't uncover the deeper structure that results in the type of eating that she's doing. Remember, she started to eat this way as a way to lose weight. So let's talk about when she started gaining weight and what led to it. Nicole was an only child raised by her mother, who worked evening shifts as a nurse's aide at a local nursing home. While her mother worked, Nicole was left at home by herself. Although her mother was only a few streets away, Nicole often felt frightened when she was left at home alone in the evenings. Her mother would leave her a meal and call her at 5:30 to remind her to heat it in the microwave. But alongside the meal, there was always a brown paper bag filled with Snickers bars, chips and lollies. She would eat everything in the bag while watching TV, trying to settle the fear and loneliness until her mother came home. Once she could see her food story as a whole, she was able to make the connections between those childhood nights of eating when she was left alone and the way she repeated the same pattern as an adult when her husband was away for work. But she had been so busy trying to get her weight down by following someone else's diet rules that she'd never stopped to understand what her own needs actually were and what they were based on. As she was deciding what she was going to do with this information, one of the hardest and most counterintuitive ideas she had to accept was that she needed to eat more in order to weigh less. If she was going to have any hope of breaking that childhood pattern of loading up on sugar when she felt lonely or frightened, she needed enough real food and enough nutrients on board to support her. So as you can see from Nicole's story, a food story is not just about what you eat. It's a story that goes much deeper. And to solve weight regain permanently, you need to go into your food story and understand what the system is and why it was created. Because going deep is where you'll find the reasons. It's where you'll find out why you overeat, why you eat for relief, and how those patterns developed. It's also where you'll find the answers on how to stop. If you think about your eating as the messenger and that it holds the clues, the reasons, and the answers. And it does take courage not to follow diet culture's message that the most important thing is to get rid of the fat as quickly as possible. Because following that advice, which is doable and does deliver results temporarily, but it will usually lead you back around the same loop for another round. If you're ready for a different approach, ready to uncover your own food story, head over to the Waiting for Happiness website and have a look at the programs I've developed. They give you the guidance, the tools and the structure to understand your own eating system and why your weight has followed the pattern it has. Thanks for listening, and I'll talk with you next week.